This is 39C, and we're finishing up our notes about the long-term effects of the Crusades. The Crusades were disastrous for the Jewish people. Jewish people who are considered enemies falsely by both Muslims and Christians, and they were persecuted from both sides. And they had to once again kind of flee the Middle East. And when some of them ended up in Spain, they were persecuted there by both Muslims and Christians. So the Crusades kind of put the Jewish people in a tight spot and was disastrous. The Crusades led to an increased desire for Eastern goods, leading to the Age of Exploration. So a few units from now, we're going to talk about the Age of Exploration. And keep in mind that when Western Europeans were in the East, they developed a desire for all of the rich goods that they could get from Africa, from Asia, that they found out about when they were in the Middle East. And they would bring little souvenirs home, and people would want more of them, and people would pay a lot of money for them. So this kind of opened their appetite to spices and exotic things to add to their life, material possessions from Africa and from the Asian countries. The Crusades encouraged technological innovation like wars often do. So shipbuilding was improved, navigation was improved too. Sometimes just by virtue of traveling that far, you learn things about travel and about accurate maps. Now we're going to talk about the Catholic Church, because officially this is before the Reformation. So officially, these kings that are going to fight in the Crusades are officially Catholic because the Reformation has not happened yet. So basically, how did they respond after losing so badly in the Crusades? They were kind of like a disunified team. You think about if you're on a team that doesn't have a good coach and just loses a lot, how that makes you feel. And so they just had a lot of internal conflicts then. And the internal conflicts may have been a big part of the reason that they couldn't win in the Crusades either. But they had problems with church leaders. They had problems with getting along. And then the Inquisition was a big problem. They felt kind of scared because Muslims had basically won the Crusades, and they were like, wow, Muslims could take over the world basically if we can't defend militarily. So we need to have more people who pledge allegiance to Jesus. We need to have more Christians. And so it was kind of the wrong motive for spreading the gospel. I think spreading the gospel should come out of a love for God, but their motive seemed to be more fear, and you can tell that by their actions. So they would try to convert people by force, and brought up an inquisition where they put people on trial if they weren't having good doctrine. There were some Christians who had heretical teachings that just weren't true, that didn't keep with the Bible. But the idea of trying to purify the church by force, and not a lot of, there's kind of this misnomer too, of kind of a fake news, fake history thing, that the Inquisition, or specifically the Spanish Inquisition, was so brutal to so many people. The death penalty was possible and torture was possible as a punishment for heresy, but it wasn't given out very often. So sometimes it's exaggerated in this rumor. A lot of people were put on trial, but not a lot of people were tortured. So just want to clear that up. Some people like talking about the Inquisition, though, and Monty Python definitely likes talking about it. So why do we have feudalism? Now we're on the road to feudalism. And this, I know I've been going back and forth a little bit time-wise, but this is Middle Ages in the West. And we just kind of talked about the Crusades and their results. Now, from 850 to 950, so we're going to go a little bit prior to the Crusades, you have invaders at their worst. Vikings are invading from the north. We looked at the Vikings. Magyars, which are Hungarian peoples, are invading from the east. And Muslims or Ottomans are invading from the south. The king is not able to give security to all the people living in their different villages around. And so they join voluntarily feudal societies, and it's based on class. So you're either someone who fights, someone who prays, or someone who works. And of course, everyone would do a bit of these things, but you would really train for fighting if you were a knight or a noble. You would pray throughout most of the day as you were doing all of your chores if you were a monk, a nun, or clergy. And you would work the